Well, good morning, sons, and Martha, and Becky, and John, and Dan, and whoever else might be catching this video today or tomorrow or down the calendar line sometime. We're to number 61 in our year-long video series on 3-verse nuggets of truth. It is Monday morning, May 22nd, 2023, and right now it's 3 o'clock a.m. in the morning. Sometimes I choose to work and study through the night, and I study from about midnight to 5 in the morning, doing some reading and listening to sermons and watching videos and Bible, practicing my memory verses, doing praying. It's a great time of study for me, sometimes from midnight to 5 in the morning. I maybe do that once or twice a week, actually. So that's what I'm doing. I had such a great day today. Martha was down visiting me because I had to go to the doctor earlier in the week to get I had a spot on my back that I had to go to a dermatologist. I had that treated, and that went well. And so Martha and I just we had a great visit, and sent her back home this afternoon, and she got back home safely. So I'm thankful for that. But it's just a great day as we went to church and sitting under great teaching on from the Apostle Paul's writing. Now the whole Bible is for our learning and for study. But only parts of the Bible is for our marching orders for today. Think of like a traffic light. I taught driver training. I had my own driving school for 20 years, and I taught many students how to drive. And one of the most critical areas was teach us how to approach traffic lights and how to get through traffic lights safely, especially making left turns at traffic lights. That is indeed the hardest skill to teach a beginning driver. But think about an intersection where you have one road going north to south, the other road going east to west, and you have a traffic light right in the middle. Well, when the light is green for the north-south traffic, it's red for the east-west. And you have to dispensate between those two. You have to understand what the red means, what the green means, what the yellow means. It has different meanings. I mean, they have depending on what direction you're going from, you have to obey the right traffic light. You have to get it right. You can't see a red light and go through a red light safely. You have to understand that the red light means stop. Well, think about the Bible being colored, some in red and some in green, Bible verses. And the ones colored in red are verses about the law. That's for our learning to understand the law, the importance of the law. But we're not in the age of law, we're in the age of grace. So think of the part of the Bible being color-coded red, other parts of the Bible being color-coded green, which is for grace. And it's the verses in graces that we study and apply for marching orders today. It's that understanding the dispensation in the Bible, the different stages in the Bible, so you can properly know how to properly divide the Bible so that all the Bible makes sense. Every verse in the Bible is true, literally true. But much of the Bible is not for our truth for today. That was for the truth before the cross. We live after the cross. These are the pages where the verses will be in green, written by the Apostle Paul. I told you several videos ago that we're probably going to get up all the way up to excuse me, videos 55 to 60, and we're still on Apostle Paul's writings. What's going to be more further than that? Because it's so important to understand where we need to apply the Bible for today, and that's in Apostle Paul's writing, which I like to go in more detail again today. So, our verses, we're still in Ephesians chapter 3, verses 1 through 3. Very quickly, I'm going to read them. For this cause I, Paul, the prisoner of Jesus Christ for you Gentiles, if you have heard of the dispensation of the grace of God, which is given to me to youward, how that by revelation he made known unto me the mystery, as I wrote afore in a few words. I want to go here this morning and compare. This would be colored green in your Bible. It's from the Apostle Paul writing, and it talks about how we have a relationship with God today. And it says, for by grace are you saved through faith. That's how we have a relationship with God, through his Son, Jesus Christ. Through faith, we believe the gospel that Jesus Christ died to pay our debt of sin. He shed his blood when he died. They buried him and he rose from that grave 3 days later. For by grace you are saved through that faith. You believe the gospel, the work of the cross. Jesus Christ did it all. And it says, it is the gift of God. Then 9 says, not of works, lest any man should boast. There's nothing we have to do on our part except believe. And I showed you a verse way back in earlier videos from Romans 4:5. I suggest you take a look at Romans 4:5. That clearly says that our belief is not works. When we believe that Jesus Christ died for us, that's not a work. That's faith. So it clearly tells us in the Bible that we don't do anything for our salvation. We trust Jesus Christ did it all. Now, let's go to a part of the Bible that would be colored red, because it's the law that does not apply to us. If we were to apply this law today, it makes no sense. But it's back in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 1 and 2. Look what it says. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. God's telling the Jews that to have a relationship with him, you have to obey all the commandments. Every one of them, you have to obey the commandments. Is that different than I read, by grace are you saved? Sure it is. This is things you must do. In the gospel of grace, it's the things that God did for us. It's not what we do for God, it's what God did for us. There's the difference. And when preachers mix the two, law and grace, the gospel gets all confused. Now look at verse 2. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Then the Bible, after verse 2, goes on for the next 13 verses that tell all the way God is going to bless that person's life if they obey the commandments and hearken to the voice of God, how that person will be blessed all through their life. Now, let me take you down to verse 15 of the same chapter 28. But, now here's the warning. But if you don't hearken unto the Lord and keep the commandments, this is what happens. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Then it goes on for the next, let me do my math. It would be 52 verses on all these curses that affects every part of a person's life, that God will curse a person's life for not keeping the commandments. Today, we're not under the law keeping commandments. We're under grace. And what happens? By grace, when you believe that Jesus Christ died for you, and he died for you, and you must understand he died for you because you're a sinner. You offended God with your sin. That puts a debt on you that has to be paid. But Jesus Christ, God sent Jesus out of heaven to come to earth to live a perfect life, to pay your debt of sin. And you believe that. And he paid it by shedding his blood. And then he justified what he did for you. And he justified your soul when he rose from that grave. that gives us victory over death, a relationship with God forever. And it's not on keeping the commandments. That's before the cross. We live after the cross in the age of grace. That was the age of grace. The new gospel for the age of grace was given to the Apostle Paul to us. Look what it says. Ephesians 2 and 3, and right here, before I start coughing. 2. If you have heard of the dispensation of the grace of God, which is given to me, to you. Paul saying, the gospel of the death, the resurrection, the blood of Christ was given to me so I could give it to you. That's different than the law. This is grace after the cross. That's where we follow the Apostle Paul's writings. How that by revelation he made known unto me the mystery. As I wrote in a few words, Paul saying, this revelation that none of the 12 disciples that followed Jesus' earthly ministry knew anything about this new mystery of grace that was given to the Apostle Paul. Let me encourage you. Come to my church next Sunday morning. I'll pick you up. You're gonna get teachings on this from our teacher Steve, our minister Steve, on how we can grow and learn and follow Christ through the writings of the Apostle Paul. Love you guys.